Make sure you're sitting comfortably. Here comes chapter 40 of Skellig. We're almost at the end. Mina's mother rested a wooden board on her knees. She smiled and put a pomegranate on the board. Pomegranate, she said. Isn't it a lovely word? She cut through the fruit with a kitchen knife. The red juice leaked out. The hundreds of seeds inside were exposed. It's what Persephone ate while she was waiting in the underworld, she said. She gave a quarter to me, a quarter to Mina, and took a quarter for herself. She gave us pins to pick pips out with, and we sat there nibbling away the sweet flesh from the bitter seed. Look at all the life in this, she said. Every pip could become a tree, and every tree could bear another 100 fruits, and every fruit could bear another 100 trees, and so on to infinity. I picked the pips from my tongue with my fingers. Just imagine, she said, if every seed grew, there'd be no room in the world for anything but pomegranate trees. I licked my lips. Mina sat close against me. We watched the blackbirds returning time and again to feed their young. I watched the sky and imagined Skellig flying away, a tiny black speck travelling over the endless curves of the world. The phone rang and my heart thudded and raced as Mina's mother went inside. But it wasn't Dad. I picked seed after seed from the fruit. How's your heart? Whispered Mina. I tried to find the baby's gentle beat beneath my fast and frightened thud. I shook my head. She isn't there. The sun climbed through the sky, became warmer. Soon Mrs. Dando cycled into the street and saw us sitting there. She bustled into the garden while the blackbirds squawked their warning calls from the rooftop and the fledglings scuttled into cover. Such a lovely day, she said. She beamed at us. We're all missing you again, she said. Mina's mother gave her the final quarter of the pomegranate and she nibbled the seeds and giggled. Pomegranate, she said. Not had one of these since I was a girl of 12. She told me about Leaky and Coot and all the others. They keep telling me, get Michael to come back. She gave me a new folder of work. There was a drawing of the open body with arrows pointing to its parts. Rasputin's note told me to write the missing names. Mina and I looked at the drawing together. Tibia, we said, fibula, sternum, clavicle, radius, ulna, kidneys, liver, lungs, heart, brain, and spirit jumping in and jumping out, but never seen, said Mina. Mrs. Dando looked at her. I knew that Coot would have talked to Mrs. Dando about her. A daft monkey girl, he'd have said. The lass that sits in a tree like a crow. The lass that's keeping him away. Miss Clark's had written, write another story like the last one, Michael. Something just as lovely. Let your imagination fly. I closed my eyes. I wanted to imagine nothing. The baby was dead. Skellig was gone. The world that was left was ugly, cold, terrifying. The blackbird squawked and squawked while Mrs. Dando told Mina's mother about what a great footballer I was, about how I loved having a daft time with the other boys. Mina's mother smiled. How's the baby? Mrs. Dando said at last. Don't know, I whispered. She's having an operation today, said Mina. Oh, poor little soul, said Mrs. Dando. Yes, said Mina, and to be quite honest, Mrs. Dando, the last thing Michael needs is to be troubled by petty things like football and school. Her mother sighed. Mina, she said. Well, said Mina, it's true, isn't it, Michael? I couldn't stand it. I went to sit on the front wall facing away from them. See, said Mina, see how you've upset him? And then Dad drove into the street and parked the car in front of me. He held the door open. I got in beside him. He put his arm around me. It's over, son, he said. But what's over? Chapter 41. I was wrong. She wasn't dead. She was in a long, deep sleep that followed the anaesthetic. She was snoring gently beneath white blankets. Mum told us about the great wound in her tiny chest and the massive bandage that was covering it. There were wires and tubes again, and a machine that bleeped in rhythm with her tiny heart. They said everything could be all right now, Michael, she said. They're sure everything will be all right. We sat there, the three of us, hand in hand, looking down at the delicate creature. They said there was a moment when they thought they'd lost her, she said. She put her arm around me, but she burst into life again. A nurse came. She checked the wires and tubes and the machine. She patted my head. Your sister's got a heart of fire, she said. She's a little fighter. She won't give in. You still say your prayers for her? Asked Mum. Yes, I said. We've been wondering again what to call her, said Dad. Persephone, I said. They laughed. Too much of a mouthful, he said. It has to be something very little and very strong, Mum said, just like she is. Gus, said Dad, and we giggled. Butch, I said. Garth, said Mum. Buster, said Dad. Look, said Mum, she's dreaming. And she was. Her eyes were moving behind their lids. Wonder what she sees, said Dad. Only nice things, I hope, said Mum. I'm sure that's right, said Dad. Look at her face, sweet and still, nearly smiling. Little angel. I know, we could call her Angela. But no, too long. It was the strangest thing, said Mum. She stopped and shook her head. What was? Said Dad. She crinkled her face up like she was embarrassed. Well, she said, I was lying here last night, tossing and turning. Kept looking up to look at her, kept dropping off to sleep, and the strangest of dreams. And, said Dad, and I saw this man, that's all. Another dream, though I was sure I was wide awake. He was standing over the baby. He was filthy, all in black, an ancient dusty suit, a great hunch on his back, hair all matted and tangled. I was terrified. I wanted to reach out to him. I wanted to push him away. I wanted to scream, get away from our baby. I wanted to shout for the nurses and the doctors, but I couldn't move, couldn't speak, and I was sure he was going to take her away. But then he turned and looked at me, his face as white and dry as chalk, and there was such tenderness in his eyes. And for some reason I knew he hadn't come to harm her. I knew it would be all right. She stopped again and shook her head. And, said Dad. And then he reached right down with both hands and lifted her up. She was wide awake. They stared and stared into each other's eyes. He started slowly to turn around. Like they were dancing, I said. That's right, like they were dancing. And then the strangest thing of all, she laughed at us and shrugged. And the strangest thing of all was there were wings on the baby's back. Not solid wings, transparent, ghostly, hardly visible, but there they were, little feathery things. It looked so funny. The strange tall man and the little baby and the wings. And that was it. He put her back down, he turned and looked at me again, and it was over. I slept like a log the rest of the night. When I woke up, they were already getting her ready for the operation. But I wasn't worried anymore. I kissed her and whispered to her how much we all loved her, and they took her away. I knew it was going to be all right. And it is, said Dad. And it is. She poked me in the ribs. Must have been thinking about what you asked me. What are shoulder blades for, eh? I smiled and nodded. Yes, yes. The baby's eyes kept moving, seeing the things she imagined in her sleep. Funny little chick, said Dad. What can she be seeing? Skellig, I whispered to myself. Skellig. It isn't over, said Mom. You know that, don't you? We'll have to protect her always, especially at first. I know, I said. We'll love her and love her and love her. We left soon afterwards. In the corridor I saw Dr. McNabola coming out of the lift with a clutch of students in white coats around him. I told Dad just to wait a minute. I ran to Dr. McNabola. He looked down at me. Doctor, I said, I told you about my friend, remember, the one with arthritis? He puffed his chest out and drew his shoulders up. Aha, he said, so is he ready for my needles and my saw? No, I said, he seems to be getting better. Splendid, he said. Cod liver oil and a dose of positive thinking, eh? Maybe he'll escape me yet. The students giggled. Can love help a person to get better, I asked. He raised his eyebrows, pursed his lips, tapped his chin. One of the students took a notebook and pencil from her pocket. Love, said the doctor. What can we doctors know about love, eh? He winked at the student with the notebook and she blushed. Love is the child that breathes our breath. Love is the child that scatters death. William Blake, I said. He laughed. We have an educated man before us, he said. He smiled properly for the first time. Tell your friend that I hope he and I never have to meet. Then he winked at me, turned and led the students away. What was that about? Said Dad when I hurried back to him. Nothing, I said. Somebody I met soon after the baby came in. He laughed. Mystery man, that's who you are. In the car on the way home, we wound the windows down and he sang the Black Hills of Dakota at the top of his voice. I put my hands together and hooted like an owl. That's good, he said. I like that. That's really good. You'll have to show me how to do that one. Not while I'm driving, though, eh? We smiled as we drove through the busy city streets. She's not out of danger yet, he said. You do understand that, don't you? Yes, but she will be, won't she? Yes, he yelled. Yes, she blinking will. And he sang again. Have to get on with that blinking house now, eh, he said. I know, we can have 27 and 53 tonight, eh? 27 and 53, I said. Sweetest of nectars. Sweetest of nectars. I like that. Sweetest of blinking nectars. I'm going to stop there, and I think Thursday we will probably finish the book. So make sure you've been onto the poll on Teams and voted for whichever book you would like me to read next. See you soon. Bye, guys.